So why is it important to understand who the Hebrews are today? It's because Bible prophecy of the end times is completely surrounded around them. So before we go into end times prophecy concerning Israel, we must examine the times that we're in right now. At this moment, we are in the time of the Gentiles. The times of the Gentiles is the biblical designation for a period of time beginning from the time probably when the Romans took over Jerusalem in 70 AD, and ending with the physical return of Messiah to the earth at the end of the Great Tribulation. Yahusha says in Luke chapter 21 verse 24, "And they will fall by the edge of the sword, and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled." So as Yahusha prophesies, Judah will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. Again, this is why I have said that the Hebrews are scattered around the world. But they are not in power, but in captivity. And then Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And this is currently still happening. He prophesied that Jerusalem will be taken over by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So do you believe that the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled? You shouldn't. It is important to understand that we are still in the middle of Bible prophecy being fulfilled. But because of many secular events, people actually want to believe that the time of the Gentiles has been fulfilled. People have said that Jerusalem was recaptured by the Israelis in 1967 during the Six-Day War, and it is no longer in Gentile hands. If you research it, you will see this is a mainstream view, and it's possible that you have been influenced by it.
And I'm going to start out with what I think is a real tough one. It's one that I've pondered a lot. Luke 21, 23 to 25. And it talks about, Jesus talks about that Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. And what's really interesting about this to me, the Amplified Bible, reads that into the time of the full number of Gentiles have been come into saving grace, and a lot of Gentiles think that's what it means. What does that fulfilled mean to you?
I believe the time of the Gentiles was fulfilled in 1967 when Israel took Jerusalem. Because in 1967, for the first time in centuries, that prophecy in Luke 21 was fulfilled. And for all those centuries before that, what we call the church, the body of believers, was Gentile dominated. But in 1967 was the beginning of the Jesus movement, where hundreds of thousands of Jewish people came in. So now we're no longer just a Gentile church. We're a Jewish Gentile body of believers. We will never go back to the time of the Gentiles. That is gone. The Jews are back, and they're here to stay in the kingdom.
This is why understanding who Israel is so important, because whose prophecy are you following? Whose power are you believing in? What we need to do is understand what Yah has said about Israel in the last days. And for this, we will go to the prophet Ezekiel. We must go to Ezekiel chapter 37. The hand of Yahuwah came upon me, and brought me out in the spirit of Yahuwah, and set me down in the midst of the valley, and it was full of bones. Then he caused me to pass by them all around, and behold, there were many in the open valley, and indeed they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? So I answered, O Adonai Yahuwah, you know. Again he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus says Adonai Yahuwah to these bones, Surely I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. I will put sinews on you, and bring flesh upon you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live. Then you shall know that I am Yahuwah. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise. It's suddenly a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Indeed, as I looked, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them over, but there was no breath in them. Also he said to me, prophesy to the breath, prophecy, son of man, and say to the breath, thus says Adonai Yahuwah, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe on these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Then he said to me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They indeed say, our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. Therefore prophesy, and say to them, thus says Adonai Yahuwah, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am Yahuwah when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up from your graves. I will put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I will place you in your own land. Then you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken it and performed it, says Yahuwah. That's Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 1 through 14. So now, if you research this on your own, this will help you understand why this series about understanding Israel is so important for believers. Like I said earlier, in mainstream Christianity, you will find that the majority believe that this prophecy has already been fulfilled, and that is because of who they believe fulfilled it. But when we understand truly who Israel is, we can remove ourselves from the mainstream thought and opinions and actually align to Yah's truth.